Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on when you're watching this video. My name is Kyoko, and welcome to Masterminds. Today, we're going to be diving into my spirituality. When did it start? How is it going? And what is the future looking like for that? Well, it all started when I was 21 years old. I had a near-death experience. You see, I used to be very troubled. I used to be very, very troubled, in fact. I used to try to harm myself, commit suicide. Back when I didn't love myself at all. I didn't want to live. I didn't know why I was here. I didn't know what was my purpose on this earth. And basically, I've tried to commit suicide a bunch of times in the past when I was a teenager, when I was 18, 19, 20. It ended when I was 21. That was the last time, the last year of when I tried to commit suicide. And this was the worst time. Before I had cut myself, and sometimes you can see some scars. Some of them healed, but some of them hasn't. And they're always with me mentally and emotionally. You know, I always remember those times. And there was one time in school, and I had real bad depression and real bad anxiety. And for those of you that don't know, anxiety is something that, you know, hasn't happened yet in the future. You're just worried about it. Depression is something that has happened in the past, suppressed trauma, which creates depression, you know. And I had a lot of both of those. So, and plus I didn't know my purpose or what I was here for, what I was supposed to be doing with my life. So I was really struggling with all of this. And at that time, when I was 21, I was in a relationship and something happened. And before that time, I didn't really know how to receive love, give love, or any of that type of thing. And it was very hard for me. I thought that relationships were supposed to be a certain way. I can go into what my thoughts on relationships now are, but right now we're talking about this. So I thought relationships were supposed to be a certain way. I was very controlling in my relationships. I didn't want some people to talk to exes because of what one or two people do with exes. And you know, that's very bad, to let what one or two people did completely change your mindset and view and take it on to another person when they did nothing of the sorts. But anyway, it was a whole lot of things, and I was just crying a lot, and I didn't know how to deal with things. I didn't know how to give or receive love. I thought love was supposed to be a certain way, and I tried to kill myself. I took a bunch of my depression pills and my seizure pills. I have epilepsy, or a mild case of it, whichever. I don't take the pills for it now because I have high blood pressure, and I had high cholesterol too, because at one time I was overweight for my size. I was 253 pounds. Now I'm under 200. But I don't take any pills for my high blood pressure, my depression, my anything anymore for a while now. And it's been the best method for me, and I've seen great results. It's just about taking care of your health. And at that time, I had depression pills, and I took all of those. I think they were Prozac or something else, one or the other. But the reaction of the medication made my mouth slur. It made my speech slur, like I couldn't talk properly. It made me sound like, for lack of a better term, it made me sound like I was autistic, like one of those people that are autistic or have a very bad speech impediment. I was talking, I couldn't really speak, and people thought I was special. I couldn't walk either, so that added to it. I was very slow moving, and I needed help walking. I needed help eating. I needed help with a lot of stuff. And I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. The first week I was in the regular emergency room, being treated, trying to get the symptoms, the reaction to the medication down. And there was, towards the end of that first week, I started being able to speak normal, but then it went back. And then I went into the suicide watch area, you know, where I was staying with a bunch of people who had issues and psychological issues. And so I was there for a while. And in that time, it really showed me what really, because there was people that had worse problems than I had. And I thought I had it bad. I thought I was nobody else knows what I go through. And everybody feels like that when they're young. No, it gets worse from here. It's never going to get better. But this too shall pass. Nobody tells you that. This too shall pass. And sometimes people do tell you that. And when they do tell you that, it's too late, or you don't want to hear it, or you just hear a bunch of stuff in your head that you want to hear instead of actual reality, basically. So in that time, I was in the hospital. I was being seen, and I was they wanted to put me on more medication, so they wanted to basically treat, you know, what was happening right now instead of the root of what was happening, which was my responsibility. I didn't go through therapy or anything like that. It was just, how are you feeling? Like basic surface questions. And then it jumped right into, okay, we're going to put you on this medication. So I went into the hospital for taking a bunch of medication, and then they're going to put me right back on medication. That's why I always say like that big pharma or the pharmaceutical companies are all about making money. If they were in the business of making you feel better, then they would be out of a business. You understand? So I understand it too, to an extent, but I feel like they overdiagnosed a lot of things, and just to put me on more medication, like, oh, you're depressed, that's why you got in here, you took a bunch of depressed medication, so we're going to put you on a different type of depression medication. And that's basically what happened. And then I was released, and after that, for some reason, it all changed for me. I saw things differently. But now, keep in mind, I've always questioned everything. I've always saw things differently. I've always was like, why do we do this? Why do we do that? Why is this taught in school? Why is this not taught in school? Why does this doesn't make sense? That doesn't make sense. And I'm always questioning everything. I wouldn't say I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I always question everything. I don't take everything as face value, and I don't just believe it just because somebody tells me. I have to do my research. I have to do all that type of thing. When I talk about it, I have to do my research, because nothing's worse than looking stupid and acting like you don't, and looking like you don't know what you're talking about. So with that being said, I saw everything with a new light. I saw everything differently. Everything was brighter. I was happier for some reason. I wasn't on the path of loving myself yet, but I knew I didn't want to die anymore, if that makes sense. So after that, that was the spiritual awakening, 21, and I never did anything else ever again. And ever since then, it was just a path of, you know, before I was raised Christian, right? I was raised Christian, and my mother is a Christian, a devoted Christian. I am not. I do not believe in any religion. I just want to state that now. I don't believe in anything. But I understand it. I understand all religions. I understand the belief of wanting to believe in something, because we're all afraid of death. We're all afraid of what happens when we die. We're all afraid of the end of our story, right? So we all want to believe in something. So I understand all of this completely, and why people believe in what they believe. It just wasn't for me. I tried that. I was in the streets for a while, and then once I left that when I was 17, I turned to Rastafari, which is a way of life, is what they say, but it's kind of a religion in a way, but it's more of a way of life. But it's basically, you don't do this, you don't do that. And I really didn't like things like that, where you don't do this and you don't do that, you can't do this, can't do that. I never really liked things like that, because that to me is a religion or a cult. And I just feel like I want to live the life I want to live, and I don't want to, you know, uphold to certain standards of how people think or say I should live, basically. I tried Rastafari, and once it started clashing with my views on life, I went away from it. And then I went to the Nation of Islam for a quick 2 months, went away from that. But I learned a lot. I've learned different values, different viewpoints. I stopped eating pork in that time, you know, when I was in Rastafari, because they were big on not eating pork. And same thing with the Nation of Islam. I even learned stuff from the Christian stuff. I've learned stuff from a lot of different viewpoints on spirituality and God, but I had to forge my own path with that. And my path now, I don't really like to speak on it, because I feel like that when you speak upon God, or speak upon the universe, or speak upon a higher power, that it kind of, you know, takes away your personal connection with it. So I really don't like to speak upon it that much. But I will say that I believe that God is the universe, and that we are all gods, because we are the creators and the devolvers of our lives. We devolve our life, we create our life, we extend our life, we do this. What we put into our body destroys our life, destroys our body, extends our life, extends our body, basically. Makes it better, stretches it, yoga, meditation, all of these things I feel like can help strengthen our body. And my connection with God is, I believe that God is the universe, instead of believing in a person, or that God is a skin color, a race, or a man or woman. If I were to try to chalk it down to an actual human being, I believe that God would be a woman, because women bring life into this world. Women are nurturers. Women are providers, or not providers, they are givers. But they could be providers as well. They like to say that men are only providers, but women provide as well, especially single mothers. So I believe that if there was a physical manifestation of God, it would be a woman. But a lot of people don't see it that way, and a lot of people don't want to talk about that or admit that, so that's fine. I just believe what I believe, and I believe that talking about God takes away your personal connection with God. But I will say that When I speak of God, I don't speak of it as a person or a man or woman or any religion. I speak of God. When I say God, I mean the universe, I mean nature, I mean Mother Nature, I mean the grass, the water, the ground, everything, the ocean, everything. I believe all that is God. The air, the atmosphere. We inhale God. We inhale the prana. We exhale the hell. You know, that's just what I believe personally. And people can believe what they believe. And before, I used to try to get mad at it and want people to believe what I believe, and this is the right way. And now it's my ego talking. People don't understand that ego causes a lot of problems with spirituality for a lot of people. There are a lot of people that just say this is the only way, like veganism. Black people, I am vegan, by the way. I've been vegan for a year. And a lot of people say veganism is the only way, and it's not. There's higher levels, there's higher vibrations more than veganism. But people don't want to talk about that. You know, they think vegan is the only way, but that's their ego talking. They think, now mind you, being vegan or vegetarian is better than eating meat. That's a whole different. I've been killing my ego. I've been noticing basically that it's okay to have other religions. It's okay. You have to appreciate every other religion and every other person's viewpoint, because everybody doesn't see life the same way. We're not all at the same level. We're not all at the same spirituality level. Some people are very low on a totem pole, people on the vibration scale. They don't understand law of vibration, law of attraction. They don't understand any of that. They don't care about it, and that's fine too. And some people are Christian, and that's fine too. My problem with religion is that when people try to force people to do things, like for example, what is one of those Jehovah Witnesses? They very much try to tell you what to do, what you can't do, what to wear, what you can't wear, what you say, what you can't say, what you watch, what you can't watch. That to me is not spirituality. Spirituality is a way of life, is a way of living. Not a cult, not I'm telling you what to do, you can't do this, and all this type. That's what I never liked about religion. And I feel like ego has a lot to do with that this is the only way, and a lot of people feel like God has personally spoken to them, or they believe these books where people say that God spoke to them and that God would say this and God would do it like that. We don't know any of this. People are afraid of all these things. We're afraid of death. That's why we look at all these type of movies and TV shows about death. That's why we look into religion, because we want to know what happens when we die. We're afraid to look at a dying patient in the hospital. We're afraid, and we cry when we see a loved one dying for many reasons. But one of the reasons is about the end of the story, the connection, the attachment we have to that person. We're afraid of death, and so we cling to things to try to externally know what happens to us after we die, and nobody knows unless somebody has died, come back to life the next day, and told us what happened. Nobody knows, and we're all looking for the answers. We're all looking for them, you know, and we're all afraid, whether people will admit it or not. In that moment when you are dying, and you know you're dying, and you know you're not going to be on this earth anymore, you're afraid because you don't know where you go or what happens to you. You're afraid, and that's okay. That's okay. Even if you talk all your life that you're tough and that you're not afraid to die, in that moment, you don't know what happens after you say your final breath and you say your final word. You don't know what happens, and that's okay. And a lot of religion tries to focus on what happens after you die and reincarnation. I personally believe in reincarnation. A lot of people believe that there is heavenly gates and clouds and that you're walking, and then they believe that there's a hell, like there's fire and there's brimstone and there's all these things underneath the earth. And a lot of people try to put these things into reality, but there's not a reality to it because we don't know. And people are afraid to say that they don't know something. Nobody wants to be brought back to the childlike mentality of not knowing something. Everybody wants to know something. And that's wrong, you know. And I personally believe that we all have a mentality of that in society and that in the world and that in life. Basically. But I will say, at the end of the day, there is light at the end of the tunnel. If you suffer from suicide tendencies, or if you suffer from depression or anxiety, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and this too shall pass. It only gets better, and it only shall get better from there. from this point on, from this point forward. Just remember that. And then knowing that you are never alone in your journey or in your fight, in your depression or your pain. Just know that we people will help you. And there's a saying, there's a quote that I want to end it on, and that's, when we were children, we wanted somebody to rescue us and save us from our pain. Who would have thought that our saviors and our rescuers would be our adult selves?